Morning, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Live from the Heartland at Home show. This is number 14 for the week of July 25th, and I'm here with Katy Hogan and Thom Clark. I'm Michael James, and we've got a little bit of news for you all. Some good things, some not so good things. So stay tuned and keep doing good in the world. And let's start off with some good things. Let's go to Katy and ask her what were the highlights of her week, some things that were rejuvenating, inspiring, and made her happy.
Geez, Louise. So many demands. I was just going to say I'm happy that I started yet another at-home online art class, thanks to the creativity of a teacher from the Art Institute who has decided she still wanted to, on her own, make classes available to folks, even though we can't go to the Art Institute. So that's my happy thing. Thom, what do you have?
We have the grandson joining us on our neighborhood walks in the morning with his scooter, rediscovering the classic summer stuff that kids do: ants crawling around, flying bugs, even sunflowers up on the Metro track station. It's been really delightful to be able to travel around through his eyes as he speeds around on a scooter, and also see a lot of neighbors, because that's our main social engagement now, is yelling over front fences or front porches with our neighbors. Michael, what have you been up to?
Well, I got to say, I did get a massage this week, and that is always a highlight of the week.
I got one too, outdoor.
Oh, God, you guys. Oh, man.
It's a little body touch with masks on and being very careful. Another thing that I really enjoyed was in driving one of my kids to get a test on the far south side, because he needed the results as quickly as he could get it. I got to drive down Lakeshore Drive and down into far south neighborhoods near 95th Street. I came back up on Cottage Grove. It was really great to see people on the street with masks, without masks. Just parts of Chicago I had not seen in a while or had never seen before, various communities and neighborhoods. And speaking of neighborhoods, I am fortunate enough, as the two of you know, to live right across the street from Field School with that beautiful little track. And it's like a little United Nations over there, which is what we like about Chicago, with lots of people walking on the track, practicing martial arts, doing a little boxing, running up and down the field, throwing passes, soccer games. The only thing that is a little discouraging is during these soccer games, there's an awful lot of no mask activity. And I'm trying to get to know enough people where I could start to, I do a little acknowledgement when I walk by with my mask and there's someone else with a mask on the sidelines. I go point to the mask, I go thumbs up. And given all the good news that you've just heard from the three of us, how about a little worse news, some things that are making you a little nuts?
Well, I mean, you just mentioned the absence of masks on these mostly international players on that field. I've had to leave the walking circle because the amount of spit swapping that was happening in the inner field was too much for me. And the sad tale is that the coronavirus is cruising around the globe, has not slowed down. If we talk about the so-called second wave, some of us think the first wave never really stopped. But right now, everywhere from Netherlands to Illinois, where we had been doing so well, it's so disheartening to be reporting that the numbers have gone up the way they have this week. And
to be very personal about this, until people start wearing masks, I'm in my house until sometime next April or May. I cannot afford to be exposed, and we were doing really well for a while, and right now I got to really watch where I'm going. I've been inside, except for doctors' offices, 4 or 5 rooms since March 14th when we last did a live broadcast. And I'm afraid that's going to continue for a few more months given the reaction. But it's a week when we do have some real rays of hope about what's been going on, particularly with people power. Who wants to take on some of the stuff that we've been seeing right in front of our noses?
Well, the come down of the Columbus statues in Chicago this past week, was absolutely the result of community and protesting pressure. So yay to the kids. I'm sorry I keep calling them kids. Not everybody who demonstrates is a young person, but I'm so grateful to them for doing it because, like you, Tom, although I've not been reduced to just 5 rooms thanks to working outside, but I'm so grateful that they're doing this work. And the fact that Lori Lightfoot took it down in the middle of the night, was bringing comparisons to Daley and Meg's Field. Have you heard that?
Yeah, but it's a false equivalency.
It is, right.
She took it down for public safety reasons. Daley took it down in a Cheney-enhanced fear environment after 9/11. There was no debate about whether to keep a working airport going or not that I recall. He just put his X's in the, made a decision for all of us.
Well, let's not go too far afield from what Lori did. And the fact that, to me, the fact that the head of the FOP started whining about that immediately said to me, good choice, Lori, good going.
I think it also, when Trump is trying to send in various federal agencies to police communities around the country, it was a deft move on her part too to remove that hotspot. And I think it's really wonderful that the young demonstrators moved right over to Homan Square, which we've talked about on the show before. It's like a black hole, a detention center. Who knows what goes on there with the police? And there's been a lot of efforts and growing groundswell to get rid of the Homan Square facility.
You're right.
The Park District renamed Douglas Park. Instead of having a slave owner being honored, we have an abolitionist by the name of Frederick Douglass, who will now be honored and celebrated by the community for the good work that he did.
And wasn't that the result of ongoing community work and organizing to get that done? It was not part of...
Started as part of a high school independent study project that they pursued for over 3 years, and they got it done.
Yes.
And that's not all.
Right.
We also have, after 3.5 years of organizing protests, sitting at the city hall, trying to cajole the former president to listen to the community, there is a passed by the city council Obama Center Community Benefits Agreement. It doesn't go as far as residents were looking for in a neighborhood that's seen home prices go up 300% in the last 2 years. But what's left, particularly vacant city lots, is now committed to maintaining affordable housing so the existing residents can stay there. Huge victory for the people.
And so welcome. We covered this for the last 2 or 3 years by having Gabriel Piemonte and other neighborhood folks. And we also had one of the big wigs from the Obama Center on our radio show when we were still recording in a studio. So this is a wonderful outcome. And I'm really glad. I know you want to label Obama, Tom, but I feel like he took everybody in a room and said, make this disappear once, the voices started being raised. But who knows?
How about a milestone for our Alderman, Maria Hadden?
Absolutely.
Yep.
We talked at our last show about the challenges residents of nursing homes are facing during the pandemic. Well, Maria got her Senior Protection Act passed by the City Council, and now at least there'll be some opportunity for seniors and other folks who are part of nursing homes to get some attention to their plight and try to get some safer living conditions established.
Yeah, I've got to follow up and read the details that in there because, as you mentioned, when we had both a resident and an organizer on the last Heartland at Home show, we're continuing to talk to those folks about raising consciousness because, as she educated us, some of them actually have permission and the ability to get out. Right now, they're in prison. So I want to see if Maria's ordinance covers that as well. But it was a piece of good news.
It's time to move on to the Head Explodes segment of our show. Tom?
Well, as we record this show, we are still waiting for Congress to act on another stimulus package, even as extended unemployment benefits are suddenly ending. It is absolutely incredible to my mind that we have Republican senators and indeed the Treasury Secretary questioning whether people deserve this money or whether they're getting too much and that's a disincentive to work. Where are those jobs for people to go back to in this current environment? Why isn't it we're not keeping a basic level of survival available for workers? I don't get these folks. I don't see them taking any pay cuts as they mismanage the economy. Good luck, all.
Yeah, I'm with you on that, Tom, and how they can actually do nothing when so many people are actually facing eviction. This from people who have already lost jobs, many of whom that means they lose their health insurance if they had it, and many have lost people in this, and now they're afraid that they might get kicked into the streets. The level of stress right now across this country is not being addressed by the quote unquote leaders of this country. I do hear some of the elected officials acknowledge the post-traumatic stress that we're dealing with, but no one's doing it enough. Sorry, Michael, what do you want to say?
No, I was just I was waving at someone coming in the house. How about we go to some more bad news or good news, depending on how you look at it. Let's go to the ComEd scandal that's brewing. Tom, you want to fill us in on that one?
Well, there's been ongoing headlines about the continuing federal investigation generated in part by a lot of investigative journalism. This week, WBEZ has disclosed, after analyzing Illinois Commerce Commission records, that during the 8 years this alleged bribery scheme was going on, ComEd rates increased to the rest of us by 30%, and their profits, their net operating income, went up 50%. Now, if this isn't a scandal of humongous amounts, and the $200 million fine, a drop in the bucket for a company making billions of dollars a year running old nuclear plants.
And that fine does not go to the people who've been ripped off, you, me, Kate, all of us. It goes to the U.S. Treasury. And who knows what that'll do with it.
I would like to see our legislators actually look at a rate freeze, if not a reduction, to make up for the last decade of bribery-influenced decision-making around our electric utility.
I'd like to say a few words about the United States Postal Service. I've always been a fan of the postmen and the postwomen. The Postal Service. Got to work in a post office during Christmas a few times on a rural route. We've been hearing Trump trying to undercut the Postal Service for a while, and he appointed a new head, and there is a board that is made up of a majority of Trump appointees. And up in Maine, some postal workers blew the whistle, saying that they've received orders now not to do the mail sorting in the morning so that they would be able to take out the latest mail on their delivery route. They take what's from the day before. Now this, without getting into a lot of detail, it enhances the delivery of Amazon Prime packages and things through the post office rather than first-class mail. There is a call for people to contact their elected representatives to talk about their support for the post office. Be aware that Trump is trying to undercut the Postal Service, probably wants to undercut it before the election in a lot of mail-in ballots that will maybe oust him.
Count on it. Count on it. That's what this is all about. Protect the Postal Service. And complete your census survey, please.
Yeah, in addition to completing the census, which you all got to pay attention to, it'll make a big difference. Also in the state of Illinois, the first thing on a ballot is going to be the fair tax amendment. You'll be hearing a lot about that from us and others. It really is very important. The future of our state and the benefits we all glean from various departments will be much enhanced once we get this thing through. So stay tuned on that.
You got anything on sports at all?
A little bit. I got to say that the highlight was not the Sox opener last night when they lost.
No.
The Cubs did win last night against Milwaukee. But earlier in the week,
Hendricks won against Milwaukee. last
Yeah.
night.
That's true.
I could get it on the cable now, even though I didn't pay for that. Uh, I was impressed though last night. Well, I wanted to just say that the Cubs did lose twice to the Sox earlier in the week in exhibition. But last night, a lot of members of both the White Sox and the Twin City team, the Twins, were kneeling. And throughout baseball, baseball has been kind of more reluctant or more conservative. It's more white. But a lot of people were taking the knee. So Black Lives does matter, and it's reaching everywhere. NFL apparently made a deal, the players and the union, that they'll be back on time. We're very excited in Chicago that our soccer team, the women's team, the Red Stars, is going to the playoffs. And, there was one negative thing I did see, that Bubba Wallace, who was a lone black NASCAR driver, was cheered when he crashed his car in Tennessee. So even though there are no Confederate flags flying inside the track, there still is some negativity.
We want to acknowledge the passing of some phenomenal civil rights leaders that you've all read about, C.T. Vivian, as well as John Lewis. John Lewis, because of his current role in Congress, as someone who says you need to make a little more organized trouble. I think that when I heard his news and saw some of the commentary and old replays of documentaries, I admit that I teared up. This was a true giant in our midst. If I might, a brief quote that I had not seen elsewhere, but given the other events of this week, John Lewis said, "Our actions entrench the power of light on this planet. Every positive thought we pass between us makes room for more light. And if we do it more than think, then our actions clear the path for even more light. That is why forgiveness and compassion must become more important principles in public life." John, thanks for being such a role model. You have inspired many of the young leaders that are rising up for racial justice and equity now, and may your spirit continue.
Thank you for that excellent acknowledgement of a leader moving on to be basically the kind of angel we have available to us all the time now. John Lewis and C.T. Vivian and a few others, they're there for us now anytime we want to call on them. We just want to also acknowledge that a dear friend and an incredible community giver of many, many decades is on his way over the Rainbow Bridge, and that is Reverend John Auer. He's out in California, but he was the head of the United Church of Rogers Park for many years. We love you. We appreciate your leadership and the fact that you were a community congregation forever. Bless you. And are we going out to singing? Am I dancing yet?
Michael, do you want to do some acknowledgments about where people can hear us and see us?
I sure do. I want to say that you can listen to lots of segments of the Live from the Heartland show if you go to youtube.com/heartlandmedia. And we're also back on the air on WLUW at 9 o'clock Central Daylight Time on WLUW.org anywhere in the world. That's every Saturday. Those are shows that like this one will be up earlier on the youtube.com. We want to thank all the people that make this show possible. Thank you to WLUW. Thank you to Susan Clark for all the great work that she's been doing with us. And we want to encourage you all to continue to do good in the world, because
the world needs all the good we do.
All power
to the people.
Have a great week. Do good in the world, everybody. See you next week.